Hello beautiful people and welcome to my channel. For those who don't know me, my name is Allie. I am a fantasy artist and tarot reader, and you can find all of my enchanting and magical products and services on my website at alisonspokes.ca. So in this video, I plan on getting just a little bit personal and talk more about my spirituality, what I believe and what I don't believe. This idea or subject was prompted by Chase from Two of Owls and Lisa from Tarot Alchemist, who were having a live chat on YouTube just the other night where they were discussing what is spirit and how they connect with it and what it means to them. And I'll post a link to their video below, and I encourage you to subscribe to both of their channels because they are amazing people who are chock full of wisdom and they're just great at what they do. So follow Two of Owls and Tarot Alchemist. Anyway, their discussion got my brainy juices flowing, and I started thinking about how I would answer those questions about, what is spirit to me and how do I connect with it. And what struck me was how uncomfortable I was at just the thought of being asked about my own personal spiritual beliefs. So clearly I have some shadow work that I need to do. And so this video is, I think, part of that process of bringing my shadow into the light. People ask me all the time because I paint fairies and I dress up like a fairy and I work with fairies in a variety of ways. Do I believe in fairies? And the most honest answer that I can give you is that my brain wants to say no, that's ridiculous. But my heart wants to say yes, of course I believe in fairies. How could I not? And so how do I reconcile those two competing beliefs or thoughts? Anyway, this whole train of thought that started with the Two of Owls video prompted me to have a serious talk with myself and confront the fact that whenever I am asked about my own beliefs, I tend to choke up and get nervous and really anxious and just try to change the subject or divert the topic to something else, which is really silly when you think about it, because I personally love hearing and learning about what other people believe, as long as they're coming from a place that isn't preachy or is trying to convert others to think like them. I'm always interested in what other people believe and why it brings them joy and happiness. And so I had to ask myself why I have this adverse visceral reaction when being asked about spirit. And so I came up with a few reasons that I think may explain why I react that way. And so I think number one is simply that I'm just unprepared. I feel put on the spot and unable to give an honest answer because I've never taken the time to sit with those thoughts and beliefs myself and really decide what is true to me and what is not. And so I evade the topic with others because I evade the topic with myself. The second reason I think is semantics. What do you mean by fairies and what do you mean by spirit? And if you can define those terms a certain way before asking me the question, I'm more likely to give an honest answer. There's another reason. I am uncomfortable declaring to a room full of believers that I don't believe in something they believe in. I strongly believe in respecting other people's beliefs, no matter how different they are from mine, and I don't ever want to make people feel like I'm judging them or that I think they're silly or crazy. I want people to feel safe around me. And I want that in part because I want to be included, as much as I want to be inclusive. And so it's really, really awkward to say something like, for example, I don't believe that crystals have healing properties or inherent healing properties. To a room full of people who use crystals for healing or spiritual work, you know, I have this fear of offending people that I don't want to offend, and then consequently being rejected or told that I don't belong or I don't fit in. So that's why I don't like talking about my spiritual beliefs. And lastly, I think there's another reason, in that because I promote this idea of otherworldly spiritual beings and magic and enchantment through my work as an artist and in my tarot practice, saying something like, no, I don't believe in fairies, that's silly, kind of kills the magic and enchantment that I try to promote and endorse. And so it's really tricky to be authentic without risking letting people down or killing the joy. You know what I mean? So let's segue back to fairies for a second. How do I simultaneously believe in them and not believe in them? And so I think we need to get down to semantics and definitions. I do not believe in little winged humanoid creatures that inhabit gardens and forests. I don't believe that you can see them, touch them, catch them in jars. You know, there's nothing physical to me about fairies at all. I think that portrayal, or the way we identify something as a fairy, is just how we anthropomorphize the concept or the idea, or we personify them in order to better understand them and relate to them. Now, having said that, I have had some strange experiences that I can't explain, and I like to pretend or imagine that these anomalies or unexplained occurrences are due to meddling fairies. I blame a lot of things on the fairies. So for example, you know, there might be a certain object that I need, and I am searching high and low for that object for weeks, and it is gone. So at some point I come to the acceptance that I've lost it, it's gone, I left it somewhere, it's disappeared, it's never coming back, and then one day it's there in plain sight in the middle of my coffee table, and I must have walked by that table about 100 times or more, never noticed it, and now it's like just in plain view, like it had always been there. And I like to say, well, the fairies must have borrowed it and now they've returned it, so thank you, fairies. That was rather inconvenient, next time ask. But thanks for, now that I have it back, I'm glad I have it back. I've had books that I have marked and put down and returned to them 5 minutes later, and my bookmark is gone and the book is laying flat, and it's to a page that I was not reading at the time that I got up and left. And so strange things like that happen. I also have this weird, I don't know, I think I have some strange overactive nerves in my body where from time to time I feel strange sensations that aren't really there. So for example, just suddenly I feel like my arm is all wet. Like I have the sensation that I'm being dripped on, or that something, like there's water dripping off my arm. And I look down to wipe it off instinctively, and there's nothing on my arm. There's nothing to give me that feeling. I also get these like pinches. I feel like I'm being pinched really hard in a tiny little spot on my skin, usually my arms or legs, and I kind of joke. It's one of those unexplained things. There's nothing there, that the fairies are pinching me and they're trying to get my attention. So I always prefer to look for the logical explanation as to how these things happen, but at the same time I have to acknowledge that maybe there is no logical explanation. So what could it be? And my go-to is blame the fae. Blame the fairies. So I do believe in fairy spirits. I believe that their existence, whether real or imaginary, are a reminder to step outside the confines of being human. As humans, we have certain tendencies. We like to judge things. We like to classify and categorize things. We feel certain pressures to meet certain expectations. While the fairies show us a different way to be or a different way to think. They have a different sense of logic that is really difficult for our human minds to comprehend. And so they challenge us to kind of step outside of our human box. They're far better at us at play. They are experts at mischief. They love to dance and enjoy sensual pleasures. They do have rules and structure and traditions, but a lot of it is just too foreign to our human brains, and it really forces us to stretch our imagination. And so many of you know that I just came back from Faerie Worlds, which is a huge festival just outside of Portland. They call it a gathering of tribes. So tribes, you can interpret that many different ways, but one way is that there's the goblins and the mermaids and the fairies and the trolls and the barbarians, and everybody kind of comes together, and it's mostly adults. There are some children are more than welcome, and there certainly are children there, and families do come to this event. It is family friendly. But just thinking about the thousands of adults that flock to this place for 3 days in the middle of nature to make music, to play dress up, to tell stories, and play make-believe. And I just think that is just incredible. That, to me, is magic. And I don't think the only way you can achieve that is by going to a fairy festival. I think that cosplayers and gamers and LARPers do the exact same thing. They find ways to express themselves as something other than human, where they can let their inner child out and play and be something magical. And that, to me, is what Fae energy is. And that's what I like to work with. The joy-seeking, playful, creative, imaginative energy, but also acknowledging that the Fae have a darker side to them as well, which I think can be equally powerful and influential. And so when it comes to my beliefs on theism, that is the belief in gods or deities, I am an atheist. I do not believe in gods, in that I do not believe there are omniscient or external entities that protect us or put obstacles in our path in order to test us. But I love the idea of gods. I think that they have a place in society. I think they have a function, and I believe that humans created the gods, not the other way around. I believe that the gods are a reflection or a projection of different parts inside of ourselves, different parts of our spirit that we personify into these characters we call gods. And so I think invoking or summoning or connecting with a god or an angel or a saint, for that matter, to me is really just connecting with an aspect of the self. And so to put faith in gods really only works if you have faith in yourself first, and that is just my opinion. For a long time, the gods have helped us understand the world around us. They've taught us how to be, how not to be, through the art of myth and storytelling. And I see, a shift and that superheroes have taken over the role as the new modern day gods. They've taken over that element of supernatural storytelling in our society. So where the world once had Hercules, now we have Batman, and they really do serve the same purpose. So who knows, maybe in 5,000 years, humans will be praying to Wonder Woman and comics will be the new scripture. You never know. Another thing that I believe in strongly is honoring and respecting nature. I do not mind referring to Mother Earth or Mother Nature as a goddess. If you define goddess as something that is bigger and more powerful than me, who will outlive me, who is seemingly immortal from my tiny little time here on this planet. I believe in her because I see her, I can touch her, I can smell her. I know without a doubt that she is there. And so I choose to support charities that contribute to conservation efforts and scientific research that will continue to make our planet healthy, because she keeps me healthy and provides me with all the supplies I need for survival: food, medicine, cleansing, detoxifying, shelter, protection, all those things. Another important thing in my spiritual beliefs are the 4 elements of earth, air, fire, and water. These are probably the spiritual beliefs that I have always had the strongest connection to, the one thing I've never been able to let go of, and probably the one thing that has prevented me from fully classifying myself as an atheist. My pragmatic self has always tried to use science to justify my beliefs by claiming that these 4 elements are the necessary essential ingredients to sustain life. And that doesn't always fly when I debate this with atheists or scientists, and I fully accept that. But I'm gonna try to share my thoughts with you anyway, just for the sake of honesty and authenticity. So first we have air. We need to breathe or we die. Every single living thing on this planet inhales, exhales, absorbs, gives off oxygen or CO2. We pull these elements out of the air and then release it back into the air. Even if you think about purely water-dwelling organisms, they need these same elements extracted from the air in order to survive. So without wind churning up lakes and oceans, marine life would die. It's the same reason that aquariums need air pumps to stir in oxygen, or else the animals inside the tank suffocate. So air, we need it to live. Water, another essential element to life. Without water, there would be no life. The world would be apocalyptic. Water nourishes, it hydrates, it cleans, and allows us to stay healthy. Fire, the element of fire. Okay, so this one is the most contentious, the one that is most debated. And so technically, I think the element of fire should probably, in reality, be the element of energy. Fire is just one example of energy. In fact, it's not even that. It's actually a byproduct of energy. It's neither matter nor energy. It's this unclassifiable in-between state that scientists can't really explain, other than it's a process rather than a thing. Anyway, when I think of the element fire, I think of the ultimate energy source, which is the sun, which isn't made of fire, it's actually fusion. So we really start to get a little gray and fuzzy when we talk about fire as an essential element to survival. Bottom line, what we need to survive is we need heat and we need energy. Heat is a natural byproduct of energy. If our sun goes out, so does every life form on this planet. It would probably be ours. We would all freeze to death. We also get heat and energy from electricity, as well as from fire itself. So I think that the reason we call it fire as opposed to something else is simply tradition. Fire has been the center of myths across a wide variety of cultures. It predates electric energy, or at least it predates our ability to control and understand it. And I also think that it ranks the top for aesthetics when compared to other energy sources. Like, we all just get mesmerized by the dancing flames, whether it's a fireplace or a fire pit or a candle. It's just, I don't know, there's something hypnotic about flames. So fire. And lastly, earth. So earth makes up our fuel, our food's food, etc. It provides the materials we need to make clothing, build shelters, make tools that we need for survival and convenience. And so we can throw in a fifth element, which I do acknowledge and believe, which to me, I would define it as the mystery element that separates living organisms from non-living matter. It's the thing that animates us, that makes us grow, that allows us to think and feel and engage with our environment. And so each of these traits of spirit are assigned back to the other four elements. So with air, we attribute logic, thought, reason, memory, knowledge, writing, communication, invention, record keeping. With the element water, we attach things like emotions, feelings, compassion, fear, love, intuition, hatred. All those things come from or are associated with the water element. With fire, we have movement, energy, action, passion, lust. Earth, the physical world, our physical bodies, material things, health, wealth, money, food, abundance. Those fall into the category of earth. And then I feel like spirit is that pursuit of happiness and wholeness and self-actualization and the process of individuation. And so all this just appeals to me and my human need to classify and categorize. I love putting things in order and organizing and just having nice boxes that everything fits in. That just is one of the things that makes me feel whole and happy. But the elementals also have a connection to the fairy realm. And so we have the wisps and the sylphs are air fairies, and undines and mermaids are water fairies, and salamanders and jinn are fire fairies, and gnomes and leprechauns would be earth fairies. And so by giving these elementals bodies and personalities and roles, again, it's just something that makes it easier to understand and easier to relate to. The last thing I want to say about elements is that these elements have the power to nourish and destroy all the others. So for example, fire needs fuel and oxygen in order to burn. So another way to put it is fire needs earth and air. But water, air, and earth can all snuff out fire. And likewise, fire can boil water, can scorch earth, and it can pollute the air. And the natural world requires these elements to be in balance in order for them to work at optimum capacity. Otherwise, they either wither away and disappear, or they get so out of hand they start leaving a wake of destruction in their path. If we think about that on a philosophical level and transfer those ideas to the idea of spirit, you know, you can do many things with that or find a lot of inspiration in that metaphor. So when I work with tarot and oracle cards, and I say that I'm channeling or I'm working with elementals or fairies or gods or goddesses, I am really working with aspects of my own or my client's spirits, whomever I'm reading for. And these aspects of spirit may be expressed or suppressed, and the goal that I have is to try to bring balance to that spirit, both within as well as balance it with the external energies and influencers around the person I'm reading for. You know, we're all connected, we're all made of the same stuff, we're all just reassembled bits of stardust with this unexplainable spirit property that animates us. And where that spirit goes after death, I don't know. I honestly remain completely agnostic on the idea of an afterlife. I'm skeptical on both sides. Let's just put it that way. And as for the cards, they're just, I mean, really, they're just pretty pictures on cardstock, and there's nothing inherently magical about them. The magic comes from in here. And so I don't believe that the cards can tell us anything that we don't already know or have already considered, but they can help us see things in a new way or shine spotlight on something that may have remained hidden, tucked in a corner where we want to pretend that it's not really there. And then they can bring that out into the light so that we can make better decisions towards positive outcomes. That's the goal. And so a reading to me is like looking at a reflection of our personal experiences and our thoughts and our feelings. And I will be completely honest that reading cards for myself has given me courage and the ability to change my thinking patterns so that I worry less and I live more. So I want to thank you for listening to my ramblings on what spirit means to me. I hope it made sense. And I guess really when it comes to beliefs, they don't have to make sense. They just have to mean something to the person that holds them. I hope that I didn't come across as preachy or judgy. Again, that is my shadow side that I need to do some work on. So thank you for allowing me to share my thoughts in the spirit of honesty and authenticity. And I want you to know that you are all witnessing me coming out of my comfort zone and facing my fear by talking about this subject. I don't know why it's so difficult and hard, but thank you for offering a safe and supportive space. And I hope you got something out of it. And if, you know, as I said, I am always interested in hearing what other people's beliefs are. So if you want to leave a comment or a link to a video that you've created where you've talked about, you know, why do you use tarot cards or why do you do certain spiritual practices, I am all ears. I love learning about things like that. Even though I may not agree, I do find it fascinating, and I love seeing people find a place of, you know, security and happiness in spiritual beliefs. So please share with me your thoughts. And thanks again. Until next time, stay shiny and keep sparkling.